Good evening again. I'd like to welcome everyone again. Welcome to the Wall Fellow students, to President Benson, to the Wall Fellow board members and alumni, to faculty, staff, and everyone watching from home. I am Erica Small. I'm the interim dean of the E. Craig Wall Senior College of Business Administration, and I'd like to welcome you again to the induction of the Wall Fellows class of 2022. This evening is a long time in the making. It was supposed to have happened last fall. And it comes today bittersweet, as we also mourn the loss of longtime director of the Wall Fellows program, Ms. Gina Cummings, who passed away earlier this week. So to begin the evening, I'd like to take a few minutes to celebrate Gina's life and leadership. Gina joined the Wall College as director of the Wall Fellows program in October of 2012. In nearly 9 years, under her leadership, the program experienced a significant transformation. As the board members and alumni who experienced that time with her will tell you, Gina restructured the Wall Fellows program significantly. She initiated partnerships with several Icelandic enterprises that have become a foundation for meaningful international consulting experiences, internships, and employment opportunities for the Wall Fellows students. She expanded the program's corporate network domestically as well, building partnerships that have provided high-quality internship experiences and executive networking opportunities for her students. Under her leadership, the Wall Fellows program has experienced financial stability due to her restructuring of the budget and through her leadership in fundraising efforts to ensure the program's long-term success. And each of these programmatic accomplishments and transformations are noteworthy, and they'll have long-lasting impact on the program. But perhaps her greatest contribution to our community came in her extraordinary ability to connect with others. Many of you, the Wall Fellows students, created videos of support for Gina when she was ill. In those videos, it was quite clear what a positive influence she has had on your own lives, professionally and personally. Many of you spoke about how you've grown as individuals under her mentorship and how she helped you understand yourselves better. And each of these videos was so positive and uplifting, a testament to the influence her own positivity has had on your lives and your characters. The guidance she provided clearly had a transformational effect on your lives. And over 9 years, that effect has been wide-reaching, as she has mentored over 80 students in this way. And her influence on each of those lives will continue to grow exponentially as each of you take into the world the values and positivity and character that she has helped build in each of you these years. I spoke in my communications earlier this week about what an extraordinary mentor, coach, teacher, and friend Gina was. And she was those things not only to her students, but also to so many of her colleagues in the Wall College, in the university, and beyond. When the news of her passing went out, I received many responses to this effect, and here are some of those sentiments. Someone said, "How terrible a loss for our students and community, but also for humanity, for all of her generosity and kindness of spirit." Someone else said, "She was always the calming element in our group and always had such a positive perspective to bring to the table about everything. She will be so incredibly missed in this little corner of CCU. Her impact was certainly wide and deep." Someone commented, "I did not have the opportunity to complete the program under Gina's leadership, but I did have the pleasure to work alongside her and volunteer some time with several of the classes under her. It was always such a joy." Someone commented, "Gina was a good friend to me and many others in our college. She will be greatly missed." And I was one of the many that had the pleasure of working with Gina, and it was a pleasure. And still many, many others wrote to tell me specifically how heartbroken they were at her loss. So I can attest to these sentiments. Gina was a great friend and support to me in a time of my own challenges in my own life, and she was a mentor for me as well, professionally. So one need not have been her student to have experienced her kind heart, her generous spirit, and her genuine interest in helping others be the best versions of themselves. So, I'd like to share with you a visual tribute to Gina and her leadership in the Wall College. So as I said earlier, this celebration of the class of 2022 is a long time in the making. And Gina worked so hard for you to have this night. She believed strongly in the importance of celebrating these rites of passage and treating them with the significance that they deserve. So, I ask that we dedicate this beautiful evening in honoring Gina's memory and her life and her leadership, and that we celebrate this induction with the kind of positivity and uplifting attitude that Gina always brought and that she still brings through you.
Here, here.
So with that in mind, and so that we can pull ourselves together, let's begin with a moment of silence before we begin the induction ceremony. Thank you. And now I invite Maylee Flanagan and Ariana Monroe to the podium, and we will begin this induction ceremony. Good evening. I am Maylee Flanagan from the Wallfellows class of 2021. I would just like to say that Ms. Cummings was all about celebration, and I think we're doing that perfectly tonight, and she would be so proud of everyone here.
And I am Ariana Monroe from the class of 2021.
So let's celebrate. Welcome to this very special event. Tonight, we will formally induct the 26th class into our family, the class of 2022. The Wallfellows program was founded by E. Craig Wall Jr. in 1995 with the mission to prepare students not for their first job, but for their last job. Thank you to everyone who has supported this program throughout the years. We look forward to many more years of excellence.
To begin tonight, we welcome Dr. Erica Small, Interim Dean of the E. Craig Wall Senior College of Business Administration, to the podium.
Thank you. I am so pleased that we can be here together and celebrate tonight. So, as I was thinking about what I wanted to say to the Wallfellows students in this moment, in the way of inspiration or advice, that is, I, of course, reflected on the goals of the program and all the activities that each of you is involved in, and it's extraordinary. The Wallfellows program provides exceptional leadership and career development opportunities, but also requires a strong work ethic, commitment, and character. So what struck me as relevant to these goals and opportunities and demands of the program was actually a Catholic prayer. Now, I don't know how much you know about Catholic prayer, but there tends to be a prayer and a saint for nearly every event. And so a few years ago, I was selling my house. There's a point to this, I promise. It was on the market for a really long time, and it was a sort of a very stressful period. And in fact, Deb Loria, you saw in the photos, if you remember her, who's an administrative assistant for the program, offered to burn sage in my house to clear it of whatever bad vibes were clearly affecting its sale. So I needed help. My stepmom, faithful Catholic that she is, told me what I was missing was St. Joseph. And if you're not familiar, the tradition is that you bury a small statue of St. Joseph in your yard when you're trying to sell a house. And so she sent me St. Joseph. And I did as I was instructed, which was to bury it in a particular place and in a particular way, and to recite the prayer to St. Joseph the worker each day. So I want to share with you that prayer in full first, and then I'll interpret, because Catholic prayers often require a bit of interpretation. But you'll see, I hope, why these words continue to resonate with me, not so much in matters of real estate, but in matters of work and work ethic. It goes like this. O glorious Saint Joseph, model of all those devoted to labor, obtain for me the grace to work conscientiously, putting the call of duty above my natural inclinations. to work with gratitude and joy in the spirit of penance for the remission of my sins, considering it an honor to employ and develop by means of labor the gifts received from God, to work with order, peace, moderation, and patience, without ever shrinking from weariness or difficulties, to work above all with purity of intention and detachment from self, having always death before my eyes and the account that I must render of time lost, of talents wasted, of good omitted, of vain complacency and success, all after your example, O Patriarch St. Joseph. So what this has to do with real estate, I still really don't know. But these words struck me as very powerful pieces of advice, and I often still think about them when I'm tired, or I'm burned out, or frustrated, or overwhelmed, all of which will happen at various points in your lives. So let me interpret the pieces that I hope to pass along to you as words of advice in your own professional and personal growth. So those pieces of advice are these. First, to work conscientiously, putting the call of duty above my natural inclination. So, be determined and diligent, even when the work is hard, and even when you really don't feel like it. It's easier said than done sometimes. To work with gratitude and joy, considering it an honor to employ and develop the gifts I've been given. So you are here, selected for this program because of your exceptional potential and your talents. Remember that these gifts do require development always, and that's not always an easy process. You'll get hard feedback. You'll fail at things, and that's okay. These are learning experiences. Be grateful for these opportunities to use your talents and to develop them. Try to experience them with joy, even in the hard moments. To work with order, peace, moderation, and patience without ever shrinking from weariness or difficulty. That one's a lot. It's a lot, and it's hard to do all the time. I struggle particularly with moderation. But keep in mind that growth and development path you'll begin in this program is a lifelong journey. Approach it that way. Be patient, work toward your goals, and know that your life is and will be multidimensional. Recognize what's important to you and prioritize accordingly. And finally, to always have before my eyes the account that I must render of time lost, of talents wasted, of good omitted, of vain complacency and success. So in other words, work so that you don't have regrets, so that you don't look back and realize that you got too comfortable, that you could have better utilized your time or your talents, that you could have used them to do more good in the world. So these words came to me at a time and in a way that I would not have expected them to have such an impact on me, but they indeed have served me well each and every day and continue to each and every day. When the work is difficult, I try to remember to be grateful that I have been given gifts that allow me to have this experience and this opportunity to grow and develop. As a yoga instructor of mine once told me, if it's hard, it's working. When it's overwhelming, I have to remind myself to work with order, peace, moderation, and patience. A very good friend of mine tells me very often, the work will be there tomorrow. So progress will come if you keep chipping away at it diligently. And when I do feel confident, like things are going well, I try to remember to look for the gaps. Where might I better use my time and talent? Where could I be doing more good? So in a moment, inductees, you will take a pledge affirming your commitment to the values of the Wall Fellows Program: character, competence, leadership, contribution. These are ideals that you will continue to develop and work toward throughout your life. You'll be challenged, as we all are, to uphold them. As you experience these challenges, I hope that these words, which continue to resonate with me, someone many years farther along in life's journey, will also help provide motivation and guidance for you in yours. So with that, we can begin the induction. Will the Wall Fellows, class of 2022, please stand? While they're doing that, I'll ask President Benson to join me up front to my left at the end of the table of plaques down there, if you would. feel like I should turn a little bit. All right, so the Wall Fellows program was founded to help students define in real terms their dreams and aspirations. A program that would assemble the resources and tools to help students achieve those dreams and aspirations. A program which would have at its heart the core values of character, competence, leadership, and contribution. A program which was radical in its simplicity because it would focus, as E. Craig Wall Jr. said, on training a student not for their first job, but for their last. A program that would focus not only on the results students might achieve in their lives, but also on the process by which those results were obtained. Tonight we are gathered here to honor the accomplishment of 10 students who have accepted the challenge represented by the goals and ideals of the Wall Fellows program. Wall Fellows inducted class of 2022. By committing your name to the Wall Fellows Creed, as well as the Code of Conduct, you not only become part of a tradition that stretches back to the founding of this university, but that you pledge and affirm that you will personally embrace the ideals upon which this tradition was built. You will pledge and affirm that in matters of conduct, it will be character, not expediency or of profit, which will be your determining guideline. You will pledge and affirm that there is no acceptable standard of performance for a Wall Fellow other than complete competence. You will pledge and affirm that leadership is a responsibility, not a job requirement or a tool for success. You will pledge and affirm that relationships with those around you have intrinsic value, a value which you will hold in trust and not use for personal advancement or commercial exploitation. You will pledge and affirm that contributing to your family, to your community, to your business, to your colleagues, and to those less fortunate than yourself is not an option, but a requirement of the life you choose to lead. And finally, you will commit that above all, honor will guide your course of career and life. We state these goals and ideals aloud so that you may hear them and so that all assembled here may share in them. Having heard this, I will ask you in the presence of the President, the Wall Fellows Board, and this company assembled, is it your pledge and affirmation to fully embrace the ideals of the Wall Fellows? Thank you. Then on the recommendation of the Wall Fellows faculty and the acceptance by the board of the Wall Fellows program, you are each invited to formally join the Wall Fellows as members of the class of 2022. Now, Maylee Flanagan and Ariana Monroe will invite each Wall Fellow inductee to the podium to sign their names to the Wall Fellows Pledge.
As your name is called, we invite each of you to step forward, enroll your signature in the continuing register of the Wall Fellows, and receive congratulations from the President and Dean on behalf of the Wall Fellows Board, Wall Fellows faculty, and Wall Fellows alumni. Then afterwards, please return to your seats. Adam Allen is an economics major from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He has been named to the President's List, member of the Economics Club, Student Veterans Association, Beta Gamma Sigma National Honor Society. Currently, Adam is a loadmaster for the United States Air Force, and this past summer, Adam interned at Avenel Financial Group. This summer, Adam will continue to intern with Avenel while he plans to pursue a career as a private equity analyst and an Air Force pilot after graduation.
Brianna Fleming is a management major with a specialization in PGA golf management from Monica, Pennsylvania. She has been named to Beta Gamma Sigma Honor Society and Phi Eta Sigma National Honor Society. Brianna has been working for the Hackler Golf Course for Coastal Carolina University, and last summer she completed an internship with Tournament Services Management at Bridgestone Senior Players Championship in Akron, Ohio. In the future, Brianna plans to pursue a job with the PGA Tour and Tournament Services.
Caitlin Mullenkamp is a finance major with a minor in economics from Dayton, Ohio. She has been named to the Dean's List and is Fila Teal certified. Caitlin is a proud member of Gamma Phi Beta Sorority, Floyd Family Mentoring Program, the Panhellenic Council, and the HTC Honors Program. She interned with the First Baptist Church of Kettering, Ohio, in Artifacts Financial Group this summer and is currently working as an assessment and analysis for institutional research here at Coastal Carolina University. Following graduation, she plans to work in the corporate finance industry. Eventually, she would like to start a female advisory firm that assists other women in managing their personal finances.
Haley Salisbury is a hospitality, resort, and tourism management major with a minor in marketing and history from Fredericksburg, Virginia. She has been named to the President's List and is a part of the HTC Honors College. Haley is a member of Delta Sigma Phi, Beta Gamma Sigma, Eta Sigma Delta, Phi Eta Sigma, Student Executive Leaders, Student Government Association, and Teal Goes Pink. This summer, Haley worked as a wedding planner intern with Steel Magnolia Events. Upon graduation, she aspires to work in special events, and eventually, she would like to start her own destination wedding planning company.
Lily Schaefer is an accounting major from Portland, Oregon. She's been named to the President's List and Dean's List. She's also a member of Sigma Kappa sorority. Lily has previously worked as a lifeguard and as a Red Cross instructor on campus, and I am proud to announce for the academic year 2021-2022, she will be our co-chief of staff. Upon graduation, she aspires to go to graduate school to earn her master's in accounting.
Olivia Stringfield is a marketing major with a French minor from Aiken, South Carolina. She has been named to Beta Gamma Sigma National Honor Society, HTC Honor College, Phi Eta Sigma National Honor Society, Member Development VP of Alpha Xi Data, and Women's Club Volleyball. This past summer, Olivia was an intern at Sword Fishing Products, and I am proud to announce for the academic year 2021 to 2022, she will be our co-chief of staff. After graduation, she plans to work and travel abroad before heading to graduate school.
Elizabeth Turner is a business management major with a concentration in human resources from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Elizabeth is a member of the Floyd Family Mentoring Program and Coastal Goes Local. This past summer, Elizabeth interned for the Charleston County Parks and Recreation Commission. This summer, Elizabeth will be interning for Kimberly-Clark, a Fortune 500 company located in Roswell, Georgia. In the future, she plans to pursue a job in human resources.
Madison Vanderlip is pursuing a double major in hospitality, resort, and tourism management and human resources management. Madison is from Centerville, Virginia. She was named to the President's List and the Dean's List. She is also a member of Chi Omega fraternity, Beta Gamma Sigma, Student Executive Leadership, and Phi Eta Sigma. This past summer, Madison interned for Himmel's Garden and Landscape in Maryland. And this summer, she will be interning for the Greenhouse Hotel in Iceland. In the future, she will be pursuing a career in sustainable tourism.
Tamari White is a marketing major with a minor in history, and she is from Piedmont, South Carolina. Tamari has been named to the President's List and has been nominated as a South Carolina State History Day judge. She is a proud member of the HTC Honors College Research Fellows, Student Executive Leaders, Beta Gamma Sigma International, Business Honor Society, Phi Eta Sigma Honor Society, Prince Fellows, American Marketing Association, Phi Alpha Theta, and History Honor Society. Upon graduation, Tamari plans to volunteer abroad for a summer and pursue a real estate license before entering law school. She eventually wants to open her own luxury real estate brokerage firm.
Ebony Wingate is a marketing major from Darlington, South Carolina. During her time at Coastal, Ebony has been named to the President's List and Beta Gamma Sigma fraternity. She is a proud member of Delta Sigma Phi, Rotaract Club, the American Marketing Association, and Student Executive Leaders. In the future, Ebony plans to earn her master's degree from Coastal Carolina University and plans to join the Otis Elevator Company's sales and marketing team in Seattle, Washington. She also plans to earn her real estate license and eventually become a broker. Please join us in a round of applause for the Wallfellows Class of 2022.
Thank you. 3 of our Wall Fellows will be sharing their experiences about what this program has meant to each of them. At this time, I would like to invite to the podium Brian Crawford, Wall Fellows, Class of 2021.
Thank you so much, Maylee. Welcome, everybody. Tonight is a special evening to celebrate these 10 individuals who I'm proud to call both teammates and friends. I have personally worked with every one of these inductees, and no one is more deserving of this honor than these 10 future members of the Wall Fellows program. But before I dive into my speech, I would like to share a little bit my experience in my first few weeks in this program. I remember I was late to meetings like 10 times. I lost 5 pounds due to stress, and I would stay up every night because I could not manage my classwork and the program requirements. Honestly, a few weeks in the program, I asked myself if it was good for me to be in the program in the first place. I really felt like I was the only one struggling, so I realized that I had to dig deep. I remember one day I was late to a project meeting, and one of the project directors gave me some excellent advice. He said, "Look, Brian, you can be late sometimes, but you cannot make it a habit." At that moment, I realized that I had to take a closer look at my priorities and what I was trying to accomplish. As I began to manage my time better, I was able to embrace more program and personal responsibilities. See, I remember freshman year, I would go to class, I would make good grades, and have the rest of the day to myself. But when I joined the program, I realized that I had to find better ways of managing my time. See, I owe this program a great deal because I've learned so much about myself and my personal goals, and I've been afforded every opportunity to have hands-on, invaluable experience in every part of this program. I have improved my interpersonal skills. I know how to dress appropriately, and most importantly, I know where the silverware and the napkin are located on the dinner table. After 2 years in this program, I have developed 3 main principles that will be a part of my life forever. I have these posted on the wall in my room, and I make sure that I review them every day, and I trust that the class of 2022 find them valuable. The first principle is you have to show up and be ready. This sounds very simple, but it can be very, very hard to do. One of my favorite books is written by Daniel J. Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. The book is called The Power of Showing Up. To quote the authors, one of the very best scientific predictors of how a child turns out in terms of happiness, academic success, leadership skills, and meaningful relationships is whether one adult in their life has shown up for them consistently. The authors go further to say that it really does not take much time, energy, or money to show up, but rather, showing up means offering quality of presence. Since reading that particular quote, I made it my goal to show up and contribute to the team, to make sure that I learn something new and move every project forward. My second principle is do not be afraid to speak up and express yourself. Now, this was very hard for me when I joined the program, but I soon learned that it is a critical part of becoming a team member. See, during meetings, I'll get very nervous about getting my point across, but I realized that everything was in my head, and I just had to think through what I was going to say, which further helped build my self-confidence. This program has afforded me that opportunity, and I wish the same for every one of you. My third and last principle is an African proverb, and it goes like this. The food is in front of you, but no one is going to feed it to you. Now, this illustrates that everyone is in charge of their success. You can pick up the food and feed yourself because it's already made and available, or you can let it simply go to waste. See, the reason I've included this particular principle is because this is what the Wall Fellows simply is. In this program, you will be provided with tools and opportunities to be successful, but it is up to you to take full advantage of them. In this program, all of you would work very hard. you will gain self-confidence and make memorable friendships. Sometimes you'll be so stressed out that your friends ask you how you maintain your membership in the Wallfellows program and manage your classes. But when they ask you this, you will know that you have taken full advantage of every opportunity that the program has afforded you in order to be successful. I have faith that the class of 2022, you will show up and ready, and you will be eager to express your thoughts and ideas. And referring back to my African proverb, I know you are going to pick up every opportunity in front of you. Class of 2022, congratulations. Please be extraordinary, and I look forward to watching your future success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Hello, everyone, and again, welcome. While being part of this program, I was fortunate enough to be a part of another high-functioning organization, the Coastal Carolina football team. Throughout the past 4 years, I have been blessed to grow personally and professionally because of the lessons learned in both programs. I'm now able to use these lessons in everyday life to ensure consistent growth that will allow me to excel in other organizations. I would now like to share with you these 4 lessons. Lesson number 1, believe. When I was first accepted into the Wallfellows program, I was a much quieter and less confident version of myself. I questioned my own actions, and I did not believe I was part of any program that would allow me to express my thoughts and opinions. I was focused on other people telling me that my goals were unreachable. The Wallfellows provided me a foundation to allow me to start to excel in all aspects of life. It provided me insights when facing doubts and hardships from the outside world. When people in the world don't believe in you, they may tell you that you cannot achieve your goals. They may convince you that you do not have a seat at the table or that you might come last place in your conference. Some may, faced with these doubts, we need to remember a lesson taught by Coach Chadwell in the Wallfellows program. It doesn't matter, get better. If the only person who believes in you is you, then you have a strong advantage. A fantastic role model for us in the Wallfellows program told the classes of 2020 and 2021 a story about being well-balanced. He said, "I'm the most well-balanced person I know because I have a chip on each shoulder." What this means is we need to move on from all the negative comments and get to work. In order to have a team, you need healthy, driven individuals. These individuals are well-balanced. Lesson number 2, take responsibility for your own actions. During my time at Coastal, Coach Joe Moglia and Coach Jamie Chadwell believed strongly in this lesson. Coach Moglia shared with us his philosophy on life, which is BAM, be a man. This was perfect for us because we had over 100 members on our team, including players, interns, coaches, and other men on our team. We are the only football program in the nation with no rules. Instead, we had one standard, the BAM standard. Being a member of the Wallfellows continues the lessons taught by this standard. The philosophy consists of standing on your own 2 feet, taking responsibility for your actions, and treating others with dignity and respect. Over the past 4 years, especially this last year, each of us has faced challenges that we have never encountered before. Over our lifetime, we are faced with even more difficult challenges that will strain our limits and test our character. In the Wallfellows and football, the concept of BAM remains strong. When we fail, we must take responsibility for our actions because it will teach us to grow. We must stand on our own 2 feet to discover processes and problem-solving skills that will allow us to grow. We will become resilient and continue to get better when we take ownership over our actions. As Wallfellows, we take pride in everything we do, including our Iceland projects to our recruiting efforts. When everyone does their job in the Wallfellows, we make a more productive impact than we could ever imagine as individuals. This leads me to the 3rd lesson, which is humility. Treating others with dignity and respect is essential in life. It is easy to forget about the hours spent in the library and the hard work it took to get where you are today. All of you in the classes of 2022 went through a rigorous process to get accepted into this program. You dedicated hours of studying in meetings and projects. You are a badge of honor that this whole university looks up to. The challenge now is to move forward and reach your personal goals and the goals of this program. When you put your suit on or your dress every day, when you get that big internship or get a job, or when you win football games, our challenge is remembering how you got there. Let success speak for itself. You will always remember the nights you felt like giving up, the times you're stressed and nervous before interviews and games. Some may praise you by saying, "You're so smart," or "You're just so good at this," or "You're so lucky." These accolades can be accepted with one phrase: the Wall Fellows afforded me these opportunities. It could be easy for us to stand proud and confident, but remember how we got here. Because each of us has and will continue to face challenges with confidence for the rest of our lives. The fourth and most important lesson is habit. In the Wall Fellows program, we call it sharpening the saw, or as we call it in football, striking the stone. Sharpening the saw or striking the stone is defined as preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have, you. Every day we reach new highs, and sometimes we hit new lows. Sometimes things go perfectly, and other times it feels like nothing else could possibly go wrong. We need to remember to constantly sharpen the saw or strike the stone. When we have great successes in getting A's or getting job interviews and offers, remember to sharpen the saw. When we fail and we feel low and not great, remember to strike the stone. When you win football games on national television and get attention, remember, sharpen the saw. There's no secret to success. Without the Wall Fellows helping me become the man I am today, I am not sure I would understand the value of hard work. If we sharpen the saw or strike the stone consistently, we will learn to grow no matter what. We have to remember we can get better no matter what is thrown at us, and we have been given the tools to do that. Class of 2022, I am so happy to call you classmates, teammates, and family. When all of you push every day, you accomplish amazing goals. Just remember to believe. Take responsibility for your actions. Have a strong moral compass, and always sharpen the saw. I would now like you and everyone in this room to join me in a ritual we practice in football. A lot can change in the fourth quarter. People can close out an amazing victory or even display a remarkable comeback. All of you are going into your fourth quarter. And no matter what the score is or who the opponent is, when you get there, remember to raise your hands, signaling a 4 just as we do. Please join me in welcoming our class of 2022. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Mitchell. I'm in the senior class as well. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Brian. Wow. Life is full of challenges, and we have the opportunity to choose how we meet those challenges. Leadership is a choice, and everyone sitting in front of me as a new or experienced Wall Fellow has made this decision. Upon graduating high school and craving to be a part of a group of young people working towards similar versions of success, I found this program. Or should I say this program found me? I say it found me because I'm an English major in the Edwards College of Humanities and Fine Arts, and I've only taken one business course throughout my 4 years at Coastal Carolina University. Luckily, this class was my freshman year, under the instruction of Dr. Jacob Vogel. He approached me toward the end of the semester about applying for the Wall Fellows program. Though I have a multi-passionate approach to learning, I was a little overwhelmed by all the potential business-related curriculum. Dr. Vogel assured me that I would not feel like an outsider. Even though I will graduate in May with a degree in English, the Wall College of Business has become a space of growth for me over the past 2 years. Abby Wambach, a retired American soccer player, coach, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and Hall of Famer, says in her book, Wolfpack, "Leadership is not a position to earn. It is an inherent power to claim. Leadership is the blood that runs through your veins. It is born in you. It's not the privilege of a few, it is the right and the responsibility of all. Leader is not a title that the world gives you. It's an offering that you give the world. I remember the moment I made the choice to be a leader. Soccer consumed most of my time outside the classroom until my junior year of high school, when I was diagnosed with a life-changing virus. I was tired, no longer rushing to my teammates' aid, no longer kicking the ball farther than the boys, no longer at the front of the sprint line. I was sitting on the bench. I was deflated, drained, and defeated. I needed to help pull my team together by leading off the playing field. I did this by developing relationships with freshmen, still being present at games and practices, and helping my coaches make strategic decisions. Approaching such a challenge as this helped prepare me for challenges I would face in college, and the Wallfellows program has expanded my comfort zone beyond leading a soccer team. This program, and specifically Ms. Cummings, has taught me to be bold in decision-making. I use the negotiating skills I have learned in my job settings to actively develop inward awareness that helps me set realistic expectations for myself. I know how and when to set boundaries, and if I ever need to pivot, I can do that also. This program is an incubator for the kind of problem-solving situations we will have to navigate when we enter careers after college. About a year ago, Ms. Cummings told me, "Allie, when you think you have two options, you always have more." I have found this to be so true. This program has taught me how to nurture friendships that extend past the classroom or office. Some of my best friends are sitting in this room today, and these friendships are circular, personal, professional, and lifelong. Just like the Wolf Pack, we as Wallfellows are afforded every opportunity to excel. It's not easy, but change never is. You will find yourself questioning your goals, your priorities, and most importantly, you will reevaluate your perceptions and sense of belonging. If you take advantage of these opportunities, you will be grounded in privilege and pride. Class of 2022, as you complete your time at Coastal and move into your intended career paths, remember that your position within the formation may change. Always lead from where you are, without fear of where you are going. Congratulations to the Wallfellows class of 2022. You're officially a part of a very special program. I would now like to welcome back to the stage, or the podium, Maylee Flanagan, our Chief of Staff.
Thank you, Brian, Sam, and Allie. Sorry. First, I would like to recognize the Wallfellows Program Director, Gina Cummings. She was the best mentor any of us could ask for. I would like to also recognize the Wallfellows Board of Advisors. Your efforts are greatly appreciated and make a positive impact on the students and creates a legacy of what it means to be a Wallfellow. Thank you for your tremendous support of this program, assisting with the success of past, current, and future Wallfellows. Lastly, I would like to recognize the Wallfellows alumni. The alumni have been actively supporting the program through board participation, class presentations, mentoring, internship connections, and financial contributions. Thank you again for your dedication, engagement, and support. Now, I would like to welcome President Michael T. Benson to the stage.
Thank you very much. To Erica, that was a beautiful tribute. And while I didn't know Gina, I met her once. She was only 3 years younger than I am. And a passing like this certainly puts you in the right frame of mind and perspective and gets you in touch with your own mortality. And I hope makes us focus on the importance of now. My office is right across the hall here, and in my office I have a portrait of Harry Truman. Harry Truman had as his Secretary of State a gentleman named Dean Acheson, and Dean Acheson was everything Harry Truman wasn't in terms of background. Dean Acheson had gone to Groton boarding school up in the Northeast. He went to Yale and then Harvard Law School. Harry Truman was the only president of last century who did not graduate from college. He failed at cattle ranching, he failed at oil discovery. He never discovered any, that's why he failed. He was a men's clothing salesman. failed at business, several different business ventures, found his way into politics. And when Dean Acheson was asked to be his Secretary of State, and after, he wrote a book called President of the Creation. And for this book, he won the Pulitzer Prize. And the title page says, "To Harry Truman, the Captain with the Mighty Heart." And what Acheson said about Truman has always stayed with me. He said, Harry Truman was completely devoid of the most enfeebling of human emotions, regret. So I hope tonight you don't have any regrets, number one, of joining this program. But number two, more importantly, your life is led, your life is lived with a complete absence of regret in your, at all. There's nothing you can do about yesterday. You can't do anything about 30 minutes ago. But you can do something about now and the future. We've thanked a lot of different people tonight, but I don't think we've thanked the parents. To you parents, I have 5 of my own children. By the way, I'm a historian, Adam, but I do know math. Looking at the photographs here, the males in the Wall College have got to step it up. I was raised by a very, very strong mother and 4 sisters. I have 2 daughters, and I cannot think of an experience I would want my own children to have more than to be a part of this program. And so to your parents, there's a phrase in Latin, in loco parentis, and it means in the absence of parents, we as administrators, the faculty, the staff at a university, while we never will take your place as a parent, in your absence, we try our best. And you've entrusted your children to us, and for that I thank you. Because my daughter graduated last week from college, so I only have one more tuition payment to make for my son. But I know what a sacrifice it is. And you've entrusted your children with us, and I thank you for that. Erica also mentioned failure. And so in the brief remarks I have tonight, I want to talk a little bit about the role of failure in your life. This is a night of celebration. We reflect on your accomplishments, and we anticipate what you will do moving forward. But think about what Thomas Edison said. He said, "I've never failed. I've only found 10,000 ways that don't work." Now, as you look around this room tonight, Thomas Edison founded a company called General Electric. It actually was called Edison something or other. It morphed into General Electric. Think of all the products in this room as you get into your car, as you go home. Sam talked about football. You know, GE makes football helmets as well, or the equipment that tests football helmets. Think about how your life is impacted on a daily basis by arguably the most multifaceted, diversified company in the world. Winston Churchill said this, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." So Adam asked me tonight, he said, "Do you have a trove of speeches you can go to?" I found Adam asked a lot of questions. And I said, well, I'd have a few, but I wrote what I wanted to say tonight, this afternoon. Because I've thought about, as I've done some recent reading, one person in particular, I want to tell you his story very quickly. And I want you to see if you can guess who it is, okay? On Valentine's Day, 1884, just 36 hours after the birth of his only daughter, Alice, named after her mother, a young man only 25 years of age held his wife in his arms as she died from undiagnosed Bright's disease. In that very same house, just hours before, this young man had said his final farewell to his mother, who died of typhoid at age 48. In this man's diary, on this date, he wrote a large X on the page with one sentence below. "The light has gone out of my life." What followed was a failed run for president, then time spent as a nomad in the Dakotas, then election to the New York General Assembly, service as New York City Police Commissioner, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Governor of New York, Vice President, and then President of the United States. For good measure, in 1906, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. In a life full of just about every imaginable experience, This man was also the target of an assassination attempt in 1912. Perhaps more than any other quotation, this man is best known for this one, included in a speech entitled Citizenship in a Republic, and given at the Sorbonne in Paris in France on April 23, 1910. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man, and I should add, to the woman, who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. The man in the arena was Teddy Roosevelt, who had thought his life was over after 25 years on the planet. When he died in 1919 at age 60, he had packed more into 6 decades than 60 lives put together. I hope you'll bear in mind as you face both tragedy and triumph in your own lives. In conclusion, our family has a very simple rule. We call it the Benson family rule, the 10-90 rule. Life is 10% what happens and 90% how you react. In conclusion, Viktor Frankl authored a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He had been married for 9 months when he and his wife, his bride, along with his parents, his brother and sister, were taken to a Nazi extermination camp. In the space of 3 years, he went to 4 different camps, and his entire family was murdered. He had this to say in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. To the Wall Fellows, congratulations. This is a big responsibility. It's not just a title, it's not just a position. It's a responsibility to do all you can, learn everything that you possibly can, and go out and do good. And go Shants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Benson. As we conclude tonight's ceremony, I would like to share with you a few highlights from this past year. The Wall Fellows led 5 community service projects in addition to the 13 Wall Fellows projects, hosted 26 guest speakers, including international speakers, completed 18 internships in 9 states, including Bank of America, Avenel Financial Group, Sapro, Sword Fishing, and the Waccamaw Community Group. Wall Fellows were recently placed at Siemens, Bank of America, EY, Citigroup, Global Markets, the White House, Sea Island Golf Resort, and Site Tech Systems, among others. We also completed consulting projects with Coastal Carolina University alumni in 4 Icelandic companies. The Wall Fellows program assisted with tutoring and mentoring for students outside the program, including a cross-campus initiative to conduct workshops regarding professional and personal effectiveness. Other leadership roles of the Wall Fellows on campus and in the community include establishing a student organization called Teal Goes Pink. This promotes an environment where women are growing in empowerment. Also, Coastal Goes Local to promote students to support Conway businesses serving in roles such as resident advisor, public safety officer, student government, the NAACP, Student President's Council, presidential ambassadors, student athletes, and Greek life leaders, to name a few. I would like to now invite Ariana Monroe, Wall Fellow, Class of 2021, back to the podium.
Thank you, Maylee. The Wall Fellows program is a legacy that is built upon a spark from an idea and the passion of one person who, surrounded by friends and supporters, created a program that has been in existence for 26 years and has affected so many. We are extremely proud that we now have 158 alumni from the program who are pursuing their careers and contributing to their communities in a far different way than they would have without the experience and growth of the Wall Fellows program. We are also continuously seeking individuals that would like to support the program in other ways, such as participation on the board, participation in class, coaching Wall Fellows, assisting with identification of internship opportunities, etc. If you are interested in contributing your time and talents, please speak with us. We are truly grateful for your dedication and support. Now, I would like to take a moment and thank those that have made this evening possible. The induction was organized by the Senior Wall Fellow class of 2021, with the project being managed by Maylee Flanagan, Anaya Moore, Nicholas Santinello, and myself, along with a deal of support from Christina Henabuevo, Brittany Lester, the team in special events, and many others. The students were responsible for the planning and preparation to make this evening possible. Please join me in a round of applause for their efforts. Please enjoy coffee and dessert in the back room. Thank you once again for joining us this evening. May success, peace, and happiness follow you all.